Laker fans, welcome to another preview video. This one's a little bit special. Today, doing one in the morning. Alan is off today. He's just taking an off day. He'll be back on Saturday night. Don't worry for the post-game show. So he'll be doing his thing, breaking it down. But Alan asked me to do a little bit longer preview video today. Go look into Minnesota, see what's going on there. We're going to take a look at the betting odds for other first-round series and maybe what Vegas is telling us about who the Lakers could see down the road, and then a potential path for the Lakers if they were to get past Minnesota and how they could get to the NBA Finals. But first, let's look at Minnesota. Minnesota, very solid team, and it's one of the more favorable matchups, in my opinion, that the Lakers could have got. I think the Warriors, we're going to get to them a little bit later, but that's a tough draw considering how the pedigree there. They've won titles. They've all been there before. I think you saw that at the end of that playing game against Memphis. But Minnesota's really young and talented, and it starts with Anthony Edwards. I mean, this guy is unbelievable. And the fact that from a ratings perspective, the NBA gets to see Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards, two of the best young players in the entire NBA, going at it in a playoff series. Then you have LeBron and Reeves, obviously, and hell, throwing a Julius Randle to a lesser degree. I think it's going to be big ratings for this one. And Anthony Edwards, no slouch. He's having a career year, 27.6 points per game, leading the team in scoring, about 6 rebounds per game, about 5 assists per game. He does it all. I mean, he is in the best part about Anthony Edwards is that he's an amazing defender. And that's a lot of times best players in leagues and on offense just don't play as much defense. And I know Luka's kind of got that label at times, but I think Luka's kind of pushing back on that narrative a little bit. I know he's not the best defender, but he really has been giving a lot of effort, I think, since he's been a Laker. And that's all you can ask for because Luka's best offensive player in the game. So we'll live with a little bit of liability on the defensive end. But Anthony Edwards is great on both ends of the floor, amazing player. And then going back to this team looks very different than last year. They're most of the same core group is there, but the big trade in the offseason was Karl-Anthony Towns going to New York, getting Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. This was kind of a byproduct of the fact that in last year's playoff series, where they actually got eliminated by the Dallas Mavericks, they didn't have three-point shooting. And they were excellent defensively. They were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA last year. But it came back to bite them because they just knew Anthony Edwards was one of the few guys that could make shots and no one else could. That's where Dante DiVincenzo, as a three-point shooter, was really good at Villanova, was really good as a New York Knick as a three-point shooter. That's kind of why he was part of that deal. And then Julius Randle, very good player, obviously former Laker, played for the Knicks. It was an interesting ad at first because you looked at how Julius Randle is a very ball-dominant player, and that's actually why the Lakers didn't really make a play to keep him when LeBron was getting here because it just thought it wouldn't really work. You obviously LeBron's going to be ball-dominant, and Julius Randle's not going to be getting more touches than LeBron. And so that was kind of a problem in New York. New York, they really got to the playoffs, kind of changed the direction of the franchise. But I think you saw in some of those Hawks series, it was ISO ball, and you take Trae Young over you take Julius Randle. And that Julius Randle isn't enough to elevate the team. But as a number two to Anthony Edwards, very solid, kind of got it together. This Timberwolves team actually won 17 and 21 games down the stretch. They were kind of hanging on the play-in game for a lot of the year, kind of hanging right outside early on. It was understandable with the struggles acclimating Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle into the lineup. But Randle kind of found his groove. At first, he had some problems kind of playing with all of them, but second on the team in scoring with about 19 points a game, 7 rebounds per game, and 5 assists per game. So Julius Randle's been one of those players where people have pointed to as he hasn't stepped up in the playoffs, but he certainly has all the tools to do it. And that should be a fun defensive matchup between him and Rui. Definitely one that the Lakers hope that they can take advantage of and at least hopefully get him in foul trouble and take their second leading scorer out of the game. Talking about the rest of the starting lineup for the Timberwolves, they are a very big team. Naz Reid, about 14 points a game, 6 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game. Really kind of hybrid center. A center that maybe 20 years ago wouldn't have played a lot, but a center nowadays is very good. He can hit threes. He's had a couple really big games against the Lakers where he couldn't miss. And he's an excellent three-point shooter but can also rebound very well. Definitely a hybrid 5. And they kind of allow him to play that way because of Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, 12 points a game, about 11 rebounds per game. One of the defensive players of the year. He's won the award a few times. That's what he's known for. He's not known for offense. He is known for defense. That is where he makes his money. And so that's going to be a really fun matchup within the matchup. Is Luka, as I mentioned, last year in the playoffs against them, had 32 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and 8 assists per game in 5 games against the Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert was on that team. And Luka had a thing that came out today, a quote about how he welcomes the challenge to play Gobert. He always loves when the center's on him. And he was the one that he hit the game 2 go-ahead shot for the Mavericks over Rudy Gobert last year. And that's something that Luka is just amazing at. One of the best I've ever seen of taking advantage of matchups. And when they try to put a center out on them, I mean, it's night. It's done. Luka wants that all day. So this is where I think the Lakers really have an advantage, is because of the tendency for JJ Redick to be able to go small ball lineup and kind of take Gobert off the floor. Because if the Lakers put Rui Hachimura at the 5, Rudy Gobert becomes pretty tough to play, because it's just, are you going to have him out on the perimeter? And the Lakers aren't really a team where you're going to need a lot of rim protection. You're going to need to get out on those threes. And the Lakers could really, if they're hitting shots, take Rudy Gobert out of this series, which would be massive for him. Rounding out the starting lineup for them, Jaden McDaniels. He is out there for defense. He's averaging about 12 points a game this year. It gets about 6 boards a game, but he is out there for defense. I think we're going to see a lot of Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels on Luka Doncic. Luka was guarded by McDaniels last year for the first part of the series. It wasn't really working, so they had to switch Anthony Edwards on him and do a little combination of both. I wonder what Chris Finch will do for the Timberwolves. I could see – I think it's going to be a lot of that. I don't think switching Gobert onto him – Chris Finch kind of had a quote talking about switching in today's NBA and how, it happens all the time. But switching a center onto Luka Doncic just does not work out for most people. And so Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards is going to be there, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. If you're the Timberwolves, you'd like to put McDaniels on him, because if McDaniels were to foul out, not good for them, but it's certainly not the same as Anthony Edwards falling out. So if you have Anthony Edwards on him, Anthony Edwards is a fantastic defender, but at the same time, are you really going to be risking him picking up fouls, because he's going to with Luka Doncic? Luka's going to get to the paint. Luka's going to get to his spots. That could spell trouble for the Timberwolves if they get any of those guys in foul trouble early, especially Anthony Edwards. So that's the starting 5. This team, though, is sneaky off the bench. I think this is where this team really went on the 17 of 21 game run down the stretch. The bench is very talented. Dante DiVincenzo, about 12 points a game. Talked about him earlier, coming over from the Knicks. He kind of floats in and out of the starting lineup. It depends what they need. If they're trying to come back in games, he's going to be playing a lot. If they're trying to hold a lead, probably taking him out and putting McDaniels in and going with a more defensive lineup in the starting 5. It'll be interesting to see if they do the 2 center thing with Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert, or do they try to mix that up? They try to put more shooters on the floor to match the Lakers. Maybe go Edwards and DiVincenzo. Maybe put Gobert out, put Reid at the center. So it'll be kind of the matchup within the matchup in the series. The rest of the bench, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, talented player, really good defender, about 9 points a game, averaging there. Mike Conley, used to play for Memphis, the veteran on this team. This team is really young, but Mike Conley is the veteran there, about 8 points a game, about 4 assists per game. He is crucial to Rudy Gobert's success. When Rudy Gobert is not great offensively. He cannot shoot the ball, but he does average around 12 points a game. And a lot of that's because Mike Conley kind of feeds him on pick and rolls. And if the Lakers can get Mike Conley gone out of the game in foul trouble, that's really how Gobert has offensive success. Now, obviously, you can do that with Anthony Edwards, but Mike Conley is the traditional point guard on this team, the one guy that played point guard all of his life and is really good at that. So that's really the only way that Gobert is going to be effective on the offensive end. He's a great defensive player, but Mike Conley is a key to that, and there's a why that he's still playing on the team. And it feels like every time I watched the Minnesota Timberwolves game and they were in a tight game, and Mike Conley's not the guy you would think of. He's not the same player he used to be 5-8 years ago. But it feels like every time they're at the end of the game, he hits a big clutch shot and kind of gets it going for him. So I got to give Mike Conley a lot of credit. Has had a great career and is still getting after it for them. And then rounding this out, now they get to all the young guys. This is where the Lakers really got to be careful on the bench. The young guys have to match this production because they're sneaky good on the bench. Rob Dillingham, young point guard out of Kentucky. He was the 4th overall pick last year. He's a really talented player, really fast, can get out in transition and run. And this is a team that really struggles in transition. I'm going to get to some stats later. They are not a good transition team and something the Lakers could really look to take advantage of. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., another young player out of Illinois, He actually had a huge game against the Lakers in the last game they played, the one with Luka and everyone. He was the leading scorer on the night for them. He's fallen out of the rotation a little bit recently, but I expect again, Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., and then Jalen Clark, young player out of UCLA. He's kind of gained minutes toward the back end of the season. Another nice young guard for them. So I wouldn't be surprised they're trying to run the Laker bench. If you go with a really young lineup, I know they don't necessarily trust all these guys in a playoff mode. They haven't been in the playoffs, but Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jalen Clark, there's something there because they are not good in transition. It is a tough transition team. They're not great in it. The team ranks are for the Timberwolves. They're 13th in points per game at about 114, so hanging middle of the pack. Opponents' points per game, they're 5th, about 109 a game. Points in the paint per game, they're about 47.2. That's 19th. Rebounds per game, which a little surprising to me. I thought the rebounds would be a little bit higher. They're only 14th with about 52 a game. Fast break points per game. This is what I was talking about. They only have about 13 points a game off this. That's good for 25th in the league. And Chris Finch made a point and mentioned it at his presser, talking about how the Lakers are exceptional in that. And the Lakers, as we all know, when they're flying, and LeBron's getting out in transition, and Reeves and Luka and hell, even Vando and Rui and the whole team's out in transition. This Laker team is lethal, and they're really tough to beat. The Lakers are kind of the kings of getting a rebound, throwing it down the court, and getting quick, easy buckets. This is not something that the Wolves are very good in. They really like to slow the game down, like a lot of half-court sets, slow it down. The Lakers are going to get out in transition. I think the crowd's going to help with this in L.A. And kind of speed Minnesota up a little bit in that regard. Looking at more stats, 3-pointers attempted per game. This one surprised me. I was doing some research because Minnesota, on paper, is not a team that you would think would take a lot of 3-pointers. They really only have 2 3-point shooters, and Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo. Now, if you want to throw Dillingham in there or Terrence Shannon or Naz Reid, but they don't really shoot at a high clip. They're actually 5th though overall in 3-pointers attempted per game with about 40. And they're also 5th in 3-pointers made per game, which about 15, which really surprised me. I didn't think that was the way it was. And then in terms of the breakdown of who's taking threes, Anthony Edwards takes about 10 threes a game, which is a lot, but I understand he's a star player. It kind of flows through him. DiVincenzo is 2nd on the team, about 7 per game. Naz Reid takes about 6 per game. Julius Randle actually has kind of added that to his game, takes about 5 per game. And then Alexander Walker takes about 4 per game. So a bulk of the 3-point shooting is coming through Edwards and DiVincenzo. So obviously we can get any of those guys in foul trouble. The Lakers have to kind of have a body on them at all times, knowing that it is an advantage that they don't have a super deep, talented 3-point shooting team coming off the bench. And that's something that the Lakers are really good at. Luka can obviously shoot threes. LeBron can shoot threes. Reeves can shoot threes. And if you had Vincent in there and Rui and guys getting after it, hell, if Connect gets minutes in the series, we'll see. This is a major advantage where I feel like for the Wolves, they're going to need to play perfect basketball and keep this game in the 90s or the low 100s. And if the Lakers get this thing past 110 in terms of points, probably looking at a lot of Laker W's. Again, cross your fingers, but the style of play, they want to slow it down. They're not good in the fast break, and the Lakers are the exact opposite of that. They want to speed this thing up and get after it. And then another thing, last thing on them kind of specifically, the Lakers, we've all highlighted the third quarter struggles. It's been an ongoing thing throughout the season. The last couple of years, it's felt like it's changed a little bit this year in terms of that JJ has really kind of made it an emphasis. He's talked about it openly about how they have to come out better at halftime. We've seen this with leads kind of get squandered, and then the Lakers come back in the fourth quarter and it looks great. But if they just weren't so bad in the third, they wouldn't have these problems. There's a stat where they're breaking down scoring by quarter. So the Timberwolves are actually 18th in first quarter scoring. They're 22nd in second quarter scoring. They're 10th in third quarter scoring, and they're 7th in fourth quarter scoring. They've had, in the 17-21 run of the last 21 games, critics will say they had a pretty easy schedule, and they did. They did have an easy schedule, but they did have a couple big wins against Denver, some really big wins there. This team has this year kind of been the comeback kids a little bit. They have gotten down some big games. They were down a couple times, 25 points this year, and came all the way back and won the game. I think that's kind of the youth that comes out in them a little bit. It's maybe not super focused in the first half, but really get it together in the second. So they are definitely a second half team. Chris Finch does a good job of second half adjustments. So the Lakers cannot come out flat in the third. I know it sounds obvious. Obviously, they can't come out flat. But this is a team that capitalizes and gets better late in games. I would attribute that to the youth of the lineup, the fact that they are young and they got young legs and they're not really worried about veterans outside of Mike Conley who could get tired. And that's something the Lakers really need to be aware of as they're moving forward. Now we talked about Minnesota. I think the matchups within the matchups that I mentioned earlier, I'm really excited to see who's guarding Luka, who's guarding Anthony Edwards. Do you put a LeBron on him? Do you? I bet Vando's run around with him most of the game. Vando and Dorian Finney-Smith. That's what I would expect. In crunch time, do you throw a LeBron on there? Who are they going to try to get after Luka on offensively to defensively? There's so many good things in the series. At the end of the day, though, I do think my prediction, I would say, I'm going to let Shannon Sharp do the talking, Lakers in 5. But I think Anthony Edwards gets them a game. But I just think the Lakers are a little too much. They have too much scoring and ability where I think the Lakers have a lot more ways to win than the Timberwolves do. Timberwolves have to play a specific kind of basketball. I bet they get one in Minnesota. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm not. Hopefully I am wrong. It's a Lakers sweep. That would be even better. But the Lakers, I just think, have more ways to win in the big three. I mean, going back to Austin Reeves, who's going to guard him? I mean, if you look at it in Minnesota, let's just say you put Anthony Edwards on Luka Doncic, and then you put Jaden McDaniels on LeBron James. I mean, is Dante DiVincenzo going to guard him? Julius Randle's probably going to be guarding Rui all night. Naz Reid can't stay with Austin Reeves. Rudy Gobert can't stay with him. So that means that you're going to have to bring in a Dante DiVincenzo, a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a Rob Dillingham, someone like that. And is that the best for you defensively? I don't know. I think the Lakers just pose too many matchup problems. The only way I think this series goes later is if the Lakers bench is bad. And because I think the Wolves bench will show up. If the Lakers bench can keep it in tow and really just kind of tread water a little bit and not give games away when the starters are out, I think the Lakers win the series in 5. And hopefully we're moving forward. Getting into, we're doing a little bit longer one today. Betting odds of first round series. The reason I bring this up, some people like to gamble. I like to gamble. If you don't like to gamble, Vegas, though, tells you a lot about what they think is going to happen. That's why I like to look at betting odds. Vegas usually is pretty wired in, pretty tight on the spreads and all things of that nature. In terms of the Lakers, in this game 1, the Lakers are actually favored by 4.5. The total opened at 218.5, the point total. It's now down to 216.5. So remember in the playoffs, defense really gets ratcheted up. So your inclination might be to bet some overs for thinking about the regular season. But remember, they really do wire it in tight on the defensive end. So I like this. I like the Lakers favored by 4.5. I like that. Looking at series prices. So this is who Vegas thinks they're giving the edge to here on out. Again, Vegas is not always right, but we can maybe get an odd and or some things about what a potential path for the Lakers would be. The Lakers are favored in this series to win the series. Minus 186. The Timberwolves are plus 156 on the money line. So for those of you who don't gamble, if you were to bet the Timberwolves to win, you put $100 on that, you would win your 100 back plus 156. And you would win less than $100 if you bet on the Lakers because the Lakers are almost a 2-1 favorite. So Vegas likes that odds there. Now, looking at the rest of the Western Conference, this one was interesting. I was curious to see this line when the Warriors beat the Grizzlies in that playing game. That was fantastic. But Jimmy Butler had 38 points and Steph had 37, and Memphis came all the way back down 20, but just really didn't have enough in the end. The Warriors are minus 166 to win the series against Houston, even though Houston has the home court advantage. Houston is plus 138. That's interesting. So the Lakers would play the winner, assuming they get past Minnesota. Not getting too ahead of ourselves, but just looking down the road a little bit. The Lakers would play the Warriors or the Rockets. So please drop in the comments who you would like to see, or if you don't think the Lakers get past the Timberwolves, then it doesn't matter. But who you'd like to see, who you think is an easier matchup. The Lakers almost had to play the Golden State Warriors had they won that game against the Clippers, but the Clippers really came through in the Bay at the end of that and showed a lot of grit in that win. And so speaking of the Clippers, rounding out the West, they are minus 118, and the Nuggets are plus 100. So that's the tightest spread of the West. They haven't released the spread because we have the playing games on Friday night for who will play Oklahoma City and Cleveland. both Oklahoma City and Cleveland will be massive favorites, no matter who they're playing. Memphis could maybe get a game. Maybe the Hawks get a game, but they'll be massive favorites there. So it's telling you that they actually believe the Lakers right now, outside of Oklahoma City and Memphis or whoever it is, or Dallas, I expect that series price to be pretty wide. The Lakers are actually the number one favorite of the matchups in the West. So the Nuggets and the Clippers are basically a pick 'em, with the Clippers being a slight favorite, and they like the Warriors -166. Not showing a lot of respect to Houston. I kind of agree with that. I think the lack of three-point shooting, them being 28th in three-point shooting, doesn't bode very well when you're playing a team, the Warriors, who that's literally what they do, even though Houston is number 1 in rebounding and number 5 in NBA defensive efficiency. Looking around the East, just to get some betting odds for there, the Knicks are actually -420 against the Pistons, who are +330 to win the series. Kind of surprising to me. I would lean the Knicks on that. I think that's a little bit too big of a spread. I mean, the Pistons are really good and took it to the Knicks not too long ago. Cade Cunningham and Beasley and all them. That's Duran. I'm kind of surprised that +330 can get you a series price on the Pistons. But and then moving on, Pacers Bucks. This one will be fun to watch in terms of the betting market. The Pacers are -166, the Bucks being +140. Now, Shams Charania reported today that Damian Lillard, after having a blood clot on blood thinner medication, they originally thought he'd be out for the rest of the season. He's not. He is out for game 1. They don't know when he's coming back, but good news for Milwaukee fans. It looks like he will be coming back in this series. Could he come back in this series? Could he come back next series if they were to win? Do they have a shot if he's not there? That's an interesting one where you might want to take the plus money and with the Bucks, not knowing the whole situation. And then the Celtics are -8,000 on the money line to beat the Magic. So the Magic are +2,200. That means you bet $100, you win $2,200. If you like the Magic and think that they're going to shock the world, maybe you can buy a home in Beverly Hills. That would be fantastic as well, because Vegas does not agree with you. But so it's nice that most of the spreads are pretty tight for the series. That means that we're going to have a really competitive NBA playoffs. I can't really think of a playoffs with this much buzz going into it, where there's so many teams you can make a case for to win the championship. And I don't think people would call you crazy. There's been a lot of years in the NBA. I know everyone watching, and myself personally, I love the NBA. I watch every year. I don't care if it's, massive favorite during those Warrior years where it really felt like no one else had a chance. I love the National Basketball Association. But this year specifically, I mean, there are a lot of teams that can win the title. The Thunder, the favorite at +180 right now, followed by the Celtics at +190. The Cavs are +550, followed by the Lakers at +1,400. The sportsbooks in Vegas actually released a whole article on ESPN, if you want to check it out, about how the Lakers have the most liability for the sportsbooks. That means the sportsbooks do not want the Lakers to win, because that means that they have to pay out a lot of bets. That means the people you and I are putting $50 in the Lakers to win a title, and because of the odds, hell, maybe you can have tickets from if you thought Anthony Davis and LeBron and them were going to win the title when their odds were way back, like +5,000. There's a lot of liability for the Lakers to win the title for sportsbooks. So could be bad for Vegas if the Lakers go on and do this thing, which I think they have a really good shot at doing. As we mentioned a few minutes ago, the Lakers, if they were to get past Minnesota, would be playing the winner of the Warriors and Rockets. And then on the other side of the bracket, the Clippers and Nuggets would be playing the winner of Oklahoma City in either Dallas or Memphis. Assuming that the favorites hold, if we're going off what Vegas thinks, it'd be a Lakers-Warriors playoff series against a Clippers Oklahoma City series. And then Oklahoma City would probably be favored there. And I believe the Lakers would be favored against the Warriors too. I know that they won that last game where Jimmy Butler clutched up at the end there and Steph went off for 50. But looking back at that game, I don't see Luka had such a bad game, and the Lakers were so flat for a lot of it. And the fact that they almost came back and won, and they turned the ball over at the end of the game, and they almost had a shot. I think that the Lakers got a real shot here to get to the Western Conference Finals and really get to the finals, because Oklahoma City is the favorite to win this whole thing. But we go back 2 weeks ago, and I know the people who hate the Lakers are going to go, well, they don't really need anything. Oklahoma City didn't need to win those games. They had the 1 seed locked up. You saw that crowd. You saw how much they wanted to win that game because the Lakers came to town. It's different when the Lakers come to your town, and the Lakers throttled them on the first night. And if you want to say that they won't shoot like that over a 7-game playoff series, that's fine. You're probably right. I mean, look at the second game. The Lakers down 12 at half, come back and take a lead with, 7-8 minutes to go, 108 to 107, then the BS Luka ejection that happened there. So I don't think the Lakers really fear anyone. I think the Lakers really feel like they've been saying it all week. And Reeves and Luka said earlier today, I feel like this team has a real shot to win a championship. And it's just super exciting. I can't wait for this series to get going. And last thing, touching back on Minnesota, it's funny how in the NBA the ratings are great when there's storylines, and there's a lot to be said, and it creates kind of back and forth narratives between stars, trash talking. When Anthony Edwards last year was trash talking Kevin Durant, Luka against this very team when he hit the shot over Gobert and is talking to him. I mean, that is great for the NBA. We're already seeing Anthony Edwards talk about how no one picks us, all this stuff, and I get to go play spoiler. And Luka now saying that he's like, I love when centers play on me. I love that there's some chirping going back and forth. I think it's going to lead to some electric matchups. I do think our Lakers come out on top. I can't wait for Saturday. And I hope you guys enjoyed the preview video. Again, Alan is off this morning, but he will be back Saturday night doing the postgame show, and then everything normal next week doing his show and the postgame shows as well. I'll be back with another preview video ready for game 2, reacting to game 1. And I hope everyone has a good day, good weekend, and go Lakers.